Martin Luther King versus Malcolm X. If one of them had to be a symbol for Black Americans or for America today, Malcolm or Martin?
I would put Malcolm in a very slight first, but I reject both of them. I reject the Nation of Islam that Malcolm represented, and I reject the social gospel that King represented. Yes, it's true that Malcolm X was more focused on building up your communities, stop begging white people to get into their
Closer
places.
to Booker T.
Right, he was much closer to Booker T.
Yeah.
However, there's a third person that nobody recognizes, and we'll talk about this in the film as well. You didn't see this part, but Joseph H. Jackson. Joseph H. Jackson was born in 1900, which would have made him 15 years old when Booker T. Washington died, and he died the same year that I was born in 1990, so he lived a very long life. During the Montgomery bus boycott, he initially thought that this was a good thing, so he offered to donate some buses to Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King said, no, we're not interested in the buses. King was more interested in using the boycott as a jump-off point for what he was really trying to do, which was pass legislation to implement some degree of socialism into America. That's what he was really interested in. He wasn't interested in this kind of build up your communities and pull up your own bootstraps. In fact, he besmirched the pull up your bootstraps philosophy. Yeah, how can a bootless man lift up himself by his own bootstraps, said MLK.
Bootstraps, and many Negroes, by the thousands and millions, have been left bootless.
Joseph H. Jackson, he was the president of the National Baptist Convention, which was the largest Negro church convention in the world. He was a student of Booker T. Washington, to be sure, but he was also a proponent of the biblical gospel. He believed that the Bible was the inerrant word of God. He followed the Booker T. Washington program in that when white people don't let you into their spaces, don't fret it, build your own thing. An example of this is there were some sharecroppers in the South who were constantly being cheated by farmers. He bought 400 acres of land here in the South, and they allowed these Negro farmers to work the land rent-free, encouraging them to pocket their money, save their money so they can go and buy their own farmland, not beg the white man to let them in, or beg the federal government. He believed that the answer is in what you can do with your hands, what we can do creatively with our own resources. Ebenezer Baptist Church was under the umbrella of the National Baptist Convention.
King's church.
His dad's church.
Yeah.
And the reason why that's important is because Martin Luther King and his contingent tried to oust Jackson from his leadership at the National Baptist Convention. So they built up a little army and they tried to elect a minister by the name of Gardner C. Taylor, who was also a proponent of the social gospel. There was a fight that broke out where they tried to grab the microphone from Joseph H. Jackson. A minister was pushed off the stage and died. Joseph H. Jackson kicked Martin Luther King and his friends out of the National Baptist Convention, and they went on to start the following year what was called the Progressive National Baptist Convention. So anyway, Joseph H. Jackson was the most well-known Negro minister in the world in his day. Today he's relegated to a footnote, and the reason for this is because when you look at somebody like Martin Luther King, who had as his handler Stanley Levison, who was very well connected. He was the #1 financier for the Communist Party in America. He had connections in the government, he had connections in the media. He was, for all intents and purposes, MLK's publicist. He would arrange MLK's schedule, telling him who to go meet with on this day, on that day, what church to go preach at, which magazines and newspaper journalists to sit down and interview with. The relationship between Levison and King is you had the kind of making of a giant in real time, and it worked. The historians picked up on it after he was martyred.